The police cars carried a massive armoury of weapons. They prepared an ambush for the outlaws. On the 23rd of May, the officers stopped Henry Methvin's father as he drove up the road, his truck left by the roadside as a decoy. On the third day, a tan-coloured Ford V8 turned into the road. The police recognised Clyde as the driver. As Clyde saw Methvin's truck, he slowed down. The police prepared to open fire.
Oh, baby, I got the blues so bad.
What is it, what your mama said?
What mama? She's just an old woman now. I don't have no mama. When we started out, I thought we was really going somewhere. But this is it. We're just going, huh?
Now, Miss Parker, don't you believe what you're reading all them newspapers? That's the law talking now. They want us to look big, so they're going to look big when they catch us. And they ain't going to catch us. Because I'm even better at running than I am at robbing banks. Shoot, if we'd done half that stuff they say we done them papers, we'd be millionaires by now, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Huh? Look, I ain't going to risk my little girl here just to make money. Uncertain as times are. You're a knockout.
You do it so. A miracle happened. And we could walk out of here tomorrow morning and start all over again, clean, with no record, with nobody after us. Huh?
Well, guess I'd do it all different. First off, I wouldn't live in the same state where we pull our jobs. I mean, we'd live in another state, and we'd stay clean there, and then when we want to take a bank, we'd go into the other state. One time I told you I want to make you somebody, that's what you done for me. You made me somebody they're going to remember.
The car stopped. 107 rounds had been pumped into the car in less than 2 minutes. Their bodies had been riddled with about 50 bullets each. While on the run, Bonnie had sent poems to various newspapers. They don't think they're too tough or desperate. They know that the law always wins. They've been shot at before, but they do not ignore that death is the wages of sin. Someday they'll go down together, and they'll bury them side by side. To few it'll be grief, to the law a relief, but it's death for Bonnie and Clyde.
The overall goal of the experience was to gain a better understanding of what it must have been like to be ambushed by cops in the middle of a peaceful drive. After a string of successful robberies, Bonnie and Clyde were on the run from the authorities of several counties. After predicting their movement patterns, a 3-day stakeout was held in order to stop them from robbing again. Our VR experience gives users a first-hand perspective on what it must have felt like to have a long drive interrupted by heavy gunfire. Users are lulled into a sense of security on the initial drive with a calm dialogue between Bonnie and Clyde. The relative simplicity of the route establishes the scene for the user and invites them to look around the car and environment while driving. The sudden change to a darker scene is meant to raise the awareness of the user as they see what appears to be a truck in the distance. The absence of conversation creates a stark contrast to the chaotic gunfire that ensues when the user reaches the stakeout point. It is at this point that the user experiences a barrage of visual and audio cues that is often startling as their virtual self is inflicted with a barrage of bullets. Responsibilities were divided between teammates in the following way. Kana Maheswaran was in charge of level design and building, procedural generation of terrain, and car movement. David Garcia was in charge of custom car environment, shooting mechanics, automatic aiming, bullet holes, blood, and sparks effects. Robert Kleszczynski was in charge of dialogue arrangement, audio design and implementation of bullets, car damage, and engine sounds, and human models, which ultimately went unused due to the limitations of the phone. All frame rate analysis, optimization, and final testing was done by David Garcia and Kana Maheswaran. The map is procedurally generated with the buffer having only 3 portions of the map at any given point. When moving from one map point to another, it deletes the last spot and adds a new portion in the form of a queue. It has checks for all 4 directions going forward, left, and right. The final scene has an invisible wall with a collider that triggers the gunfire. As we render the final scene, we dim the lights to give the illusion that you've been driving for a longer period of time. The car movement is from the standard assets with a custom model fitted onto it. The firearms work by casting a ray in the transform forward direction every time they shoot. The rate of fire is based on the gun type. The ray returns all collisions with objects in the player layer and spawns random particle spark effects at the point of collision with the car object, or blood particle effects when colliding with a person object. The ray collision also spawns bullet hole objects at the point of collision with the car, although the bullet holes must be destroyed in 250 milliseconds after being spawned in order to maintain a solid frame rate. Muzzle fire from the guns is simulated with yellow particle effects per shot at the end of the gun barrels, in addition to yellow light effects that light up the area around the firearm. The firearms automatically target the player object by rotating towards it using the quaternion slurp with some random functions to randomize aim. The opening dialogue was a rearrangement of sound bites from the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde. While the car engine script was derived from standard assets, its main concept is centered around the dynamic fading and pitch shifting between high and low engine RPM sound subsets. Based on user input, the sound gradually fades from a subset of recordings where the engine is stationary to a subset where the car is driving. When the user accelerates, the car's engine gradually gets louder and goes up in pitch to emulate the revving of an engine. The bullet sounds are created from a combination of a main impact sound, a hammer click, and reverb tails to emulate the space it was shot in. These sounds were then loaded into a sound bank that would randomly generate a place in the stereo field, pitch bending, and volume adjustment for each bullet and hit sound, so as to create a procedural barrage of bullets based on the weapon type's actual firing rate. The system uses 8 voices of polyphony, 4 for guns and 4 for hits. As bullets are fired, voices are stolen from the oldest sounds.